The MR, the Merrimack County?
No, this is with the Congressional Sportsman Club. And a group down in D.C. actually donated the gun to us.
Oh.
Yes, which was...
325?
Yeah, 325.
That's an odd caliber.
Yeah, I thought so too. My husband thought so, but it
It's
looked...
like, what,
and it's bolt action.
I have to do another caliber?
Mm-hmm.
It's like I've got enough already.
I know. I've narrowed it down to 3.
I started off wanting 2.
Yeah.
I just stick to the fun handguns.
Yesterday, Scott emailed me and said that Collectible Firearms in Merrimack has
Oh, yeah, sure.
800. You're off. 880 round crates, 762 by 54. Right, and
Yeah.
I need that for my Tula. So I'm like, I go scooting over there after work, and they had to close early for some reason. I'm like, now I gotta go back. I said, son of a bitch, I gotta go back today after the show and hope they still have some.
Yeah, it's
Because nobody ever has it. Nobody ever has
it's
a
tough
13
getting
cans.
one, and also tough getting bulk. I mean, you can get little...
Oh,
Oh, yeah,
it's
you
starting
get
to get better.
20
Yeah, it's
round
better.
packs of it.
I'm
And the
afraid to
price is
shoot.
kind of the
It's
same,
like-
but you gotta buy
I
so
was
many
for a
of them.
long time. Well, when 223 got to be 1,000, over
Oh,
1,000,
nope. Oh, we got another minute. Sorry.
$1,000 for 1,000 rounds.
Yeah.
I went, I can't do this anymore. Now that it's finally back down, but it's still hard getting the bricks for the 22, which is what my wife
Oh, yeah.
shoots.
Well, I like shooting that. I have a 22 handgun. My girls have it because my girls hunt with their father. They have a 22 shotgun that they just for target practice. We like plunking off the
Switch
22s.
chairs if you want.
No, we're good.
They're
I'm
dangerous.
fine.
I like to share.
Sit down.
Yeah,
man.
no
Well, I
kidding.
started off with the 22 for my wife, and I started off with a 9. Then I got a 9 AR. Then I got a 380 for her because she wanted to go up. I've got a little 380 LCD.
40.
Same thing.
Oh, you got the
There's a
slide.
compact, yeah.
Yeah, nice.
Oh, I got the little guy.
Everybody look at the guns.
Oh my gosh.
Like we
Who
say,
wants to rob us? Come on in.
No, I have the nice little laser.
Oh, look at
Oh.
you.
Yeah.
This is exactly mine with the full grip.
well, this is
I
what we
love this
say.
gun.
We are the safest podcast in New Hampshire. I didn't
That's
know you-
all right.
I didn't
And
know
we're
you
starting the
carried
next
Oh,
segment.
but of course, my husband loves me.
But yeah, we got a 380 Walther,
Yeah.
and then I added the 223. Got
Coming back, Skip.
Have a great day,
Thank you,
guys.
Lynette.
That's great.
You're going to want to check out the video. But at the end of that segment and the beginning of this one, because everybody showed everybody what they were carrying.
Started with you, Steve.
Started with me, and everybody was low. We are the safest podcast in New Hampshire.
Trust us.
Indeed, we started talking about you
raffle.
You can't the raffle
Which,
that Lynette is having for the congressional.
I didn't even catch the name, but I'll
We
call
have it on tape.
We have it on tape. You'll be able to see it. There's a lot of gun raffles going on, different committees and groups, and you'll be able to catch that on the tape. And so will we, so we can write it down.
Yeah.
And I think I have email from her, so I'll check that. But a lot of different groups are raffling off guns, $10 raffle tickets, $5 raffle tickets. Guns are donated, and then the committee gets the money or whatever it is.
Yeah, and we have a group coming in from the Merrimack Republican Committee
next week.
For next week,
Right, and
about
they'll be
their
talking about the
AR.
raffle. So anyway, Josh, welcome.
Thank you, guys.
Hi.
Hi.
Gosh!
Great to see you.
Something else you'll see on the video if you check it out when Josh walks in the room. We'll give a little hint about that. But let's
Oh, no. You're going to edit that out.
let's
Oh no,
Oh,
that
no.
goes up.
That goes up.
you're gonna have to talk to him about that.
All
'cause
right.
I don't have any control over that particular side of the program.
But I know you don't have a. You have a truck now for sale. I pass it all the time.
Oh, it's gone.
Oh, it's gone.
It
this
was
week?
gone as of yesterday.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So
All right. Your billboard sign.
I know we got to figure out a way to trade off that video segment, and we'll figure that out.
How about a new fan for my wife's laptop?
Sure. Is that all you want?
I'm easy. No, we'll won't keep our folks in suspense. Because of Lynette's gun raffle, we started saying 325. That's an odd caliber,
That's right.
and I started to say, well, I started off this whole my shooting experience, trying to limit the number of calibers. Now it's like, oh gosh, I got so many calibers, I can't believe I've got them all. This is not what I wanted.
Well,
And show me. I'll show you I'll show you mine if you show me yours. And we all kind of went, yeah, we're all armed.
So, Josh,
so guys,
we wanted to talk about, you had two particular things, specifically, which we brought up previously. One of them was the issue with getting good candidates, and we want to explore that. And then I think that ties to the second issue, which is the split in the party. So where do you want to start?
well, it's interesting because many of us Republicans and Tea Party type extremists, so to speak, as we've been cast. We just recently actually woke up from this election, and now we look at the mayoral elections that have taken place all over the state and what have you, and the city council, and it just seems to me that not only do we start losing grip, but I think we've almost entirely lost the grip because of the fracturing of what's going on in the conservative side of the aisle, whether it's the Republicans fighting inside of themselves or the little and big libertarians fighting with the Republicans. It just seems like the unity is just is really shameful. The lack of unity, should I say, is just shameful. And that's one issue that I couldn't help but identify in these mayoral races. And it seems like the Democrats are just sweeping in. We see what's going on in Washington. We see Obama looking the American people directly in the eyes, lying to them. We see Harry Reid's Senate, and we see what's going on down there, and yet we're still electing Democrats. What's this all about? Why are people not absolutely rising up against this? Where's the passion? Is it completely gone in the American people?
I think I've been reading a lot of Ann Coulter. Her latest book. I borrowed it from Mike, who couldn't be here this week because he's organizing a Guy Fawkes party at which we are attending later. And a lot of the things that she talks about, and she supported Romney, and she comes at it from the prospect of somebody who's inside and really is a pundit. And I was never a big fan of Romney. He's a little bit too squishy for me, but I would support him as president. He's conservative enough on enough of the right issues. And she talks about how a lot of people smeared him for the way he behaved when he was, trying to get elected in the communist state of Massachusetts, and puts a particular spin and perspective on it that makes it a little different. Now, I don't always necessarily agree with that, but she talks about politicians who run to get elected and then govern from a conservative perspective. On the issue of abortion, which was huge for Romney, in Massachusetts, he ran as a pro-choice guy, but he didn't act like one when he was elected. For the most part, even though he had a sea of Democrats surrounding him and he's standing on this little buoy by himself, he, on certain issues he ran, he didn't really have to contend with them. He didn't necessarily work to repeal things, but he did things a little bit differently. Not that it was right, but the way it was presented in the general election from a lot of people like us, and I'm as guilty as anybody because I just said, well, this is what he was doing, this is what I can see, and this is what I think. In the primaries, I was like, Romney, no. And like you said, we still got stuck with him, which plays to what you just said. There's a huge movement either in the establishment or with a moderate swing that ends up voting for these doles and these candidates like Romney who are kind of squishy, who don't come off well. I mean, Romney's a smart guy. He's clearly
very smart,
charismatic. He's capable.
No, he is not charismatic.
Well, he is in the corporate world.
But that doesn't.
No, not necessarily translate political.
He's not Bill Clinton charisma.
He's not Ronald Reagan charisma. He's not. I mean, why does everybody say Reagan? Because Reagan took a very complex series of arrangements in the political realm, and he narrowed them down into simple words everybody can understand, kind of like the Constitution, and said, "This is what I stand for. This is why I disagree with what they stand for, and I think my way's better." And we haven't had anybody who can articulate that since then, which is part of the appeal of Reagan.
Sure.
But because we haven't, and we have that problem right now in New Hampshire, where are the good candidates for anything?
They're scared to run.
To run against Custer. Exactly. And that's another part of the problem, the intimidation. The same attack from the left on us is now coming from the Republicans on us.
Yeah. I mean, we have been seeing them for the last 2 or 3 weeks, and I've been putting up story after story about it. I did a whole run last night because of stuff that will be coming up for me. But you look at the old guard Republicans. The people who are Republicans, well, I gave a little bit of a speech because I went to just to catch you up real quick, I went to a Merrimack County Republican Committee meeting because one of our GrokTALKers was about to hand over a letter, and I brought my camera. And I got booted off the island.
Oh my goodness.
And one person, Mark Sanborn, who is the husband of Molly Sanborn,
Sure.
I'm naming names because I don't give a crap anymore, who is the new president of the Young Republicans, said he helps to elect Democrats. So, this is the same thing that's going on now with Senator Mitch McConnell, where he went after one of the conservative PAC, saying they help elect Democrats.
Oh my goodness.
No, and that story is up. Senator Chuck Grassley has said in Iowa they're going to try to remove the influence of the Tea Party there. We see it happening here in New Hampshire with the complete split in the party at the last convention, where it was Andrew Hemingway, a Tea Party Project 912 Liberty and Freedom type group candidate versus Jennifer Horn.
That's right.
And we see it over and over again in this state, where those of us who are the grassroots, the more conservative type folks, who basically, they call us right wings. I keep trying to understand. I just want to go back to the constitutional values. How is that right wing? That's more like going back to our roots and just bringing those values back up into the public conversation now.
Politics has become such an industry that it never was intended to be.
No, you're absolutely
And
right.
so I think that now, I mean, the definition of a constitutional conservative is very different in the eye of the public. And it's my objective, and I know it is for you guys here, to bring back, to lift the words off the pages and make them become alive again.
Well, and I gave that speech, and here's one of the things I brought up. There are some that are Republicans. Well, they are Republicans. The party first and always. So what's the problem with the rest of you getting with the program? Gene Chandler once said at the Belknap County Republican meeting, any person with an R next to their name is a good Republican. And now I can tell you about Elida Mildum, Peter Bolster, and Doc Pilliard if you so desire. Not to denigrate them, but to use them as object lessons. I can leave the denigration for later. But then there are others like me that are Republicans only because of its stated philosophy. Best matches mine. So the problem is, why do you Republicans not support the platform and the Constitution? Not so much with your lip service, because you do lip service to that, but with your actions and with your votes.
Exactly.
That is a huge, huge divide that I'm not sure that can be healed or can be broached. We expect Republicans to act according to the platform.
Absolutely.
And we are told, you guys are absolutely just the dirt in politics. What, because we support the platform? But then you've got the other things, and two other things. You've got the ruling class idea, the professional politicians, as you brought up. Angelo Covia of BU, my alma mater, wrote a wonderful series of articles about the ruling class versus the country class. Those of us who believe in values versus those who actually wish to rule. And I've gotten to the point where I don't care about Reagan's 11th Commandment, because it's basically nothing more than it's been bastardized so much to condone and hide bad behavior that it's
they don't
worthless
follow
anymore.
it.
No, they won't follow it.
The objective is just to silence any opposition, anyone trying to bring some accountability to the table.
Right.
It's like they built the sandbox, the platform.
Yeah.
We jumped in and said, "Oh, this is great," and then they came and kicked sand in our face. It's like you're gonna follow the platform, and it's like, and then we're the bad guys for that.
And it's time to stop being a Republican because your parents and your grandparents were. I mean, come on.
Well, a lot of people start off that way. I was one.
Which is fine.
Although I had to tell this little story. When I turned 18, I registered to vote, and my stepdad, who was a Korean era vet, said, "Did you register as a Republican or as a Democrat?" And he and I weren't getting along at that point in time very well at all. And I said, "That's my decision. I don't need to tell you." And he got really, really ticked. And he kept after me. He said, "I registered as a communist." And his eyes just bugged out. And I said, But I continued on with, I turned it into an object lesson. I said, look, the beauty of this country is that I get to decide for myself what my philosophical, political leanings are. But let's put it another way. You fought and put your line on the line so that I could make that choice. And he looked at me like, uh-oh, smoke coming out of ears. Gears are turning. And he muddled over this for a little bit. And he apologized to me later. And I said, nah, I'm a Republican. So, yeah, that
And you
tape
stayed
will
that
go.
way, though.
And I stayed that way. But I was a Republican because I was a Republican. My parents were Republicans. It wasn't until much later that I understood I wasn't really a Republican. I was a conservative first.
I didn't realize that till I was in my 30s, so thank you very much. By the way, people in Merrimack, my oldest son is now eligible to vote, so beware.
Cool.
Yeah, that's when you start realizing you are getting old when your kids can start voting. It's like, ay.
And I got another one coming 2 years, so...
Yeah.
And let me give you a hint about how they might be voting.
Well, if they still want a place to sleep at night.
No, I would do that.
I know.
I would let them vote any way they wanted to. I don't expect them to vote as a conservative or Republican. I expect them to have the sense to look at what they see and hear in school and in the news and on the TV and to ask questions.
That's it.
Does this really make any sense? Can this actually happen? Just think about it. Now, if you can convince yourself that that's true, and then nobody can convince you otherwise through any reasonable argument, then you should vote the way you feel you should.
Vote your conscience.
I'm not going to tell you you have to vote for the candidates I like or the issues I like, but I'm going to ask you if you thought about it.
Sure.
Yeah, and I think that's the part that Lynette brought up, that sometimes voters don't want to know what's
Correct.
going on. And, there is some sense to that. And that for a lot of people, government should be at that 4th or 5th level down. It should be in the background. And in the beginning of this country, it was in the background.
That's right.
It was tiny. The whole idea behind the founders was that we would have this limited government, we would have individuals, and in between, that mitigation factor was this thing called civil society, where individuals interacted with all kinds of voluntary associations, either permanent or short-term, depending on what the need was, and they would take care of that stuff. And the government would be the umpire, not the empire, as you said earlier, but
That's
the
very nice.
umpire. But now we have seen, since Wilson, especially with FDR, and then again with LBJ, we've seen that the civil society organizations have become co-opted by government. And there's hardly any buffer at all between government and the people, which is exactly what the progressives say, which, that's what they wanted. And that comes down to the other thing. We see two philosophies at play here, not just between the Republicans and the Democrats, but when you look at people like Charlie Bass's father and Charlie Bass's father started the progressive Republicans here in the state. Charlie Bass himself was the chair of the Main Street Republicans, which touts itself as being a progressive. And, progressive is not just the name of an insurance company, folks. This is a way
Run
of
by a progressive.
or by a huge, very rich progressive that uses their money for progressive purposes.
Flow is
Flow.
code
Flow.
for flow from
Yeah.
redistribution.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the part that government should be first. That's the progressive mantra. When it comes down to, they're nothing more than incremental socialists.
The state before the person.
Yeah, the state before the person versus the framers and we say it's the individual that should be standing on top of government instead of government ruling from above. But here's the idea. Progressives. The first is a foreign philosophy born of von Bismarck of Prussia as he was conquering the other Germanic states, trying to outwit the growing socialist movement at the time. He came up with the brilliant idea of taking his subjects' money and then bribing them with it for their acquiescence in return for stuff from the state. From that grew the Frankfurt School's ideology that maintains the proper role of government is to take care of you cradle to grave. It is this state of positive rights that progressives push. That the state must do things to alleviate any wrongs and problems, and served as the basis of FDR's Second Bill of Rights. That's what progressives believe. And that's what, the object lesson here now is the Medicaid expansion, as we've been talking about it all day. And here's where the vast chasm comes. Here's the other side of the argument. The second is the American philosophy of our framers, a limited government that was instituted to protect our liberties and freedom and restricted in philosophy after much studying of history and philosophy. Radically different than anything else at the time, it demanded recognition that the individual be over the government. In this, civil society was expected to solve the problems of the day via voluntary interactions between individuals, by families, friends, community, and free markets, and not by government. Thus, liberty and freedom would be protected, as only the force of government had the power to do otherwise. And that, I think, is one of the other reasons here in the Republican Party today, we see the ruling class has adopted this whole idea that the state must be doing stuff for people, versus us in the grassroots who are Republicans, not because our families were, because we've realized and we've internalized this is the best philosophy for us, and it comes back to the founders' philosophy. Where should the right relationships be? And the two parts of the party cannot agree on that.
We need to, Don Walker was commenting on, who's been a guest, on this discussion about this progressive nonsense and the whole New Hampshire Senate, Republican Senate, kind of coming up with their terms for surrender, so to speak, to take the money. And, it plays to the question, where do we find good candidates? How do we compete, basically? And Don's answer was, don't listen to the establishment at all, just move forward with your plan, follow their platform, even though they don't, and find people who have that fire and are willing to step forward regardless of support from anybody else except the people who believe the same things, and run for office. Now,
it's interesting you say that, because I'm kind of a newcomer to the structured political scene. I've always been very politically interested and very opinionated, and dating back to my parents as a child saying, "Why are you so difficult? Why are you always questioning authority?" And it really comes down to, I just want a rational, supportable answer for absolutely everything. And I kind of...
You're an engineer, aren't you?
It kind of just happened that way. And so, my high school quote in the yearbook was, "Government should be the referee and should not be a player in the game." One of my favorite Reagan quotes. But the reality is not to use myself as an example, but I will, I'm not a politician, so to speak. I was just absolutely fed up with the state of affairs, and I said, I guess I'm just going to go out and try this. I was in for a surprise, and it was quite a big surprise, but the reality is they don't want people like me. And who's they? They, the establishment. They, the ruling class, the ruling party. The people that stand to lose the most by people like myself that could care less what they think. There's nothing on the table for negotiation. I don't want your office. You can't bribe me with giving me a corner office in some building or somewhere. I don't care. I don't care about parking spots. I don't care about horse trading on bills. Here's the deal. This is how I'm going to vote. Like it or lump it. And I just think that they went on a full-on attack on me. They've done it on many, many other candidates on a local, state, and national level. And it's the fear of losing power.
Yes. Well, not only that, but you can't be co-opted.
Correct.
If I was to run for office, even though I have made the promise and remade the promise many times to the most esteemed wife, that I would not seek a higher office. I've been an elected official in Guilford on the budget committee, rose to be the vice chair. I did get her okay that, if I wanted to run for selectman or maybe the school board, but that's it, nothing above that. I can't be co-opted.
Yeah.
Because I'm not going to give in. I understand you can express principles in different ways. I'm okay with that.
Sure.
And sometimes you do have to pick your battles. But I will never vote against something that goes against my principles. And I got in trouble for that an awful lot. That's why I'm no longer an elected official. Because other people said, well, we want people who can be co-opted. Oh, you may be a Republican, but you're going to help us get we'll support you if you help us get our brand new fire engine.
And then they want to turn around and call the yous and the me's of the society or of the elected world. I was never elected, but the fact is they want to call us impossible to deal with and difficult and obstinate. And the reality is maybe it does take the one juror to hang the jury. maybe that's the deal.
Well, that is part of what our process is about as far as the judicial system is concerned, because you haven't been convinced. And that's where you see the progressives in DC right now. Obama's so upset because Congress just won't do what I want them to do. And Harry Reid says, well, the House just won't do what we want them to do. And I'm thinking, yeah, but all those people who won't do what you want them to do are doing exactly what the people sent them to do.
The machine's working perfectly.
Yes, our system is working exactly the way it was supposed to be. Our system is not built to get stuff done, which is when I look at Mitch McConnell and I look at Grassley and some of these other folks, and you go, that's what they think government is for, is to continually punch out more and more stuff. Sometimes the better thing, as an engineer, we know, is do nothing.
Stop the
system.
movement.
The system will heal itself. As an ex-biologist, the human body does need help from time to time, but in a lot of cases, time will heal a lot of stuff.
Absolutely.
Especially when you're younger, if you're sickly and old and all that stuff. Yeah, it's nice to have all these good drugs and
the
stuff.
other important point to this is that this same group of people are, like we were talking with Lynette, ramming stuff through, forcing change, pushing agendas, got to get the Medicaid done, got to do it this week, got to do it next week, got to get it done. Now we know, as conservatives, as people who are for liberty and freedom and personal choice, and local control, understand that when you do that, lots of things go wrong. The reason conservatives are successful in life is because they don't rush into stuff. They stop and they think about what'll happen if I do this.
Yeah.
What are the complications? The bigger the problem, the more you have to think about it. After a while, you get good at it. You get good at
it becomes
seeing.
another sense almost.
You look. I mean, they throw something in front of me, and I look at it, and I go, oh, something. I can see where it's going to go wrong.
That's
because
right.
they haven't thought it through. They don't want to think it through. Like you said, they don't want to know. People don't want to know. They don't want to have to think. They've been trained through the public education system to just go, I don't have time. It's over my head. But I'm not the brightest guy in the world. But I have the sense to look at these problems, and after being involved in blogging for 5 years, the minute somebody says something, I already know what they mean. I know what they really want.
That's right.
Yeah.
And then you look at the legislation and the way they try to push it through, and you know what the goal is. You don't have to pry through all the details, but you have to convince other people that they have to. You have to sit and look at this Medicaid expansion bill. You have to read the language. You have to tie paragraph 1A to 6I. You have to look at the way, like with SB 11, the water thing. It's a sustainable communities type bill. You have to look at how these phrases relate to each other in the
That's
law,
right.
because that's what a judge is going to do, and they're going to spin that sucker to get whatever they want. And
Oh,
if
yeah.
you don't look at it up front and say, this is what's going to happen if we don't change it or stop it, it's going to just...
This is a door ajar to some abuse of discretion somewhere in some courtroom.
Right, and conservatives say, slow down, the Edmund Burkes. Look, let's take our time and do it right. First of all, is it really a problem that we can solve, or is it a problem that other people can solve more efficiently in their towns, counties, neighborhoods, or whatever? Nobody ever asks that question anymore.
The problem is I think you're looking at it from a somewhat different standpoint. We look at it to solve a problem. I am certainly wound up constitutionally, eternally constitutional, to solve problems as an engineer.
Sure.
I used to drive my wife crazy because she would always complain about something, and I'd go about, okay, I gotta go fix this.
She's like, I just want someone to talk to.
Yeah, you got that right. But and the same thing here. But if something needs to be fixed, yeah, things need to be fixed. But in stuff like this Medicaid expansion, this isn't to fix a problem. This is to move forward up an ideology.
That's right.
And whether it actually works or not is immaterial.
All right, we're going to come back to this conversation in a couple minutes in the final segment. Josh is staying with us for the ride. My name's Steve McDonald. I'm here with Skip Murphy and Josh Youssef. This is GrokTALK.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Good to see you guys.
Yeah.
Gosh.
By the way, I never responded to your email. You're very welcome.
Oh my gosh, I was just like, oh, boom, kaboom.
Yeah. I mean, Ed Mosky used to write for Granite Rock for a little while.
So yeah, I didn't know of all of the procedural history, so to speak, of all that. How
Yeah.
long ago was that?
Oh, a long time.
Really?
Long time
Okay.
ago.
Gotcha.
Um,
Well, now he's a self-proclaimed, he's a prolific. I think that's his self.
Prolific?
He goes, I was once a prolific writer of op-eds. Let's just, if you don't believe me, just look at his website.
Well, the thing is...
So when I saw that, I had to chuckle.
Yeah,
When I saw what you had written. So.
And, you know, the thing is that I saw that, and just a little while ago, you know, the Republicans did the same thing to this guy who was going to run. They just whipped up you just change a couple letters or you add a couple little things. This is nothing new, folks. This has been going on since the blogosphere started.
Seriously.
And for this nitwit Democrat in the AG's office to make a ruling.
A ruling? Since when does the executive branch make rulings?
Yeah, well, this is what this is another part of the progressive. They are trying for a unitary government, which is judge, jury, and executioner.
All in one.
All in one. Obama does the same thing right now with Obamacare.
I'll say this off the air, but not on the air.
You are on camera.
But I won't say it. Thank you, Steve. But the reality is you know, you got a guy like that knows that there's been no violation of the law.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's no way there's even a charge or a conviction in the court of law. So then there's a court of public opinion.
Yeah.
And that works because you can sway more people with that than you can by, you know, only having to sway 12 jurors.
Well, you know, if Ed Mosca is going to bring his client into the political war, then he deserves everything that he deservedly got. I mean, which is basically, you fool. And that's how I looked at it. You know, if I did something as stupid, then yeah, that's the way it goes. We had a fake Granite Grok Twitter account.
Did you?
And it was kind of amusing. I thought it was just a lot of fun, and they finally gave up.
Well, I mean,
because I kept on playing the game.
Oh yeah. Well, the thing of it is that there's a part of me that wants to say, let's bring this to its logical conclusion, to its judicial conclusion, because I want to see how this would hold up under scrutiny in a courtroom, and maybe possibly on appeal. This RSA 666:6. It is completely an unconstitutional statute. The U.S. Supreme Court has given so much latitude to political speech.
Yeah.
At the very least, this is political speech.
Well, this is the same thing that we started to talk about at the top of the show with the Mini Disclose Act that Kathy Sullivan tried to push through. Really on an unrelated back. Oh, we never stop, and there's never enough time.
GrokTV.